Hello, welcome to Caydor's Sword Mage Quick Guide, Part 7. I'm Caydor.
I'm Integer, and he can't make this elevator work.
Correct. And I've showed you this elevator before, but you basically take it all the way to the bottom, or if you're starting from Firelink, you take it from the bottom and you take it part way up before you take this path. And this one's a little tricky. You have to kind of spin to land on it, and then you have to actually run to get up it, because if you just kind of walk normally, it'll just kind of have you running into what looks like an invisible wall.
You can also roll. Roll works too.
Yeah. But be careful, because I think later when I'm trying to get here, I keep accidentally rolling
off.
Yeah. And
it may take a few moments on your first try, but eventually you'll be deposited here.
Yep. And I cut out the cutscene, even though it's epic watching the crow pick you up. Now we've returned to the Undead Asylum, and I think I showed you getting the key earlier.
You did. Although, if you notice, it is now called Northern Undead Asylum, and not just Undead Asylum.
Even though it's pretty well the same place. Or at least the landscape is the same. At least they make them all look the same. Sort of like Jurassic Park, where you have 3 different items. The only thing that changes is the enemies there. And I suppose that would be islands, not items.
I'm pretty sure it's the same one, because I tried it on one character. Snuggly the Crow is where you start out.
Yeah, it's Snuggly's there. And for some reason she doesn't talk to me this time around. But I still drop an item, and if you're careful, you can pick up the item it drops and then drop another one. But I didn't drop my cracked red eye orb far enough out to get my extra purging stones, and so it had me pick up both the eye and the purging stones at the same time. And if you drop it again, it'll reject your offer.
Yes. So be careful. Also, that's a good way to make infinite twinkling titanite. Just go to the forest, equip anything and everything you can to make your item drop rate insane, and then kill as many demon tree things as you possibly can.
Yep, you can also get, if you have a bunch of cracked red eye orbs, I think I had 4, and you can normally get 8 purging stones out of it, but I go ahead and get a couple of purging stones now. And I managed to get through the frogs, cursed frogs, without trouble. But if you're not good at that sort of thing, it's useful to have them. Basically, I'd rather have them and not need them than need them and not have them. Because it is a pain in the ass trying to get out of that place when you're cursed.
Hey, that's the truth.
I almost quit the game the first time it happened, because I was doing another build that didn't have a whole lot of health to it, so once your health bar is halved...
The first time I got cursed, I was playing a build where my health bar halved is the same length as your current health bar.
Sounds about right. But really, except for the demon that's hiding underneath the floor that we already passed, but if you step on the wrong spot, it seems to be dropping down. He's about the only thing that might present a challenge if your intelligence is a little bit higher than mine, or you pick up some of the more powerful spells, or have extra slots, or whatever. Or just have the patience, you can probably take him. But this guy is unusually good at dodging those bolts.
It's because he's in melee range. And he rolls.
Yeah, well, it's a roll he's pretty good at. A lot of characters, you'll start to cast, and they'll roll too early, and they'll stand back up just in time to get nailed in the face.
A trick for defeating the demon under the floor. If you stay very close to him, he won't use too many of his fire burst attacks. And if you stay to where you're hugging his tail, it'll make it where he can't hit you with his hammer very well. That'll cut his moves down to all of, like, 2 that'll actually hit you. One of them is a fly sit move, which is easily dodged by a roll backwards. The other one is a slam with his hammer in front of you, or in front of him, causing a fire burst. If you keep your shield up and keep hugging his tail, it will miss you.
Well, actually, if you keep about, I don't know, one body length standing upwards, not laying down, basically about a sword swings away between you and his tail, that fire burst in front of him won't hit you, but if you're right on his tail, it'll hit you. And that's pretty well how I fight him later. It's just, like, even with spells, the first time I went through this, having about the stats I have now, I was only doing like a 100 with my best spells. And I don't think I have an enchanted sword yet, so my damage was kind of terrible. So basically it is possible, it just turns into a war of attrition where you're fighting him for probably 30 minutes to an hour. So I come back later when I've heavy firepower, and it goes a lot quicker, using the strategy he just mentioned.
Because the tail is your friend, even though it can't be cut off on the spot. Anyways.
As you can see, I'm very non-conservative with my spells, because I'm only conservative when I expect to fight a boss. And generally, if you're fighting a boss, you're running from a bonfire, so...
Rusted iron ring was once used to hold captive prisoners. Can still see a little congealed blood on it.
Yep, I pick it up because after this, we're gonna head to the poison swamp, and unless you have a poison bite ring, it's a lot easier to run across the swamp if you have the ring. Otherwise, the water terrain slows you down a whole lot, and there's a pain.
As a note, moving across it at normal speed poisons you just as much. So a poison bite ring is still something you might want to invest in.
Well, it poisons you just as much, but you're in it longer, so you're more likely to pick up the poison.
No, that's just it. I found that if you're running through it, like holding the sprint button, or moving across the top, you get poisoned the same amount for the exact same amount of distance covered, even if you're not on it as long. Anyways, do your own experimentation, find out whether or not whatever works for you.
Well, there's enough dry terrain across it to, you can pretty well navigate either way. I guess the benefit of having the ring is you can outrun those annoying wasp things.
The mosquitoes.
But remembering now, we actually go down through the depths first, because even though you can technically skip that and take a shortcut through the dragon path, which I do later, I need to kill the gaping dragon because we need at least one piece of the armor that's down there, as well as the, Ring of the Evil Eye. That's very helpful for running through because it gives you back health when you murder stuff. And our build is really good at murdering stuff in mass quantities.
Or not so mass quantities.
But mass quantities are preferable.
Anybody else find it weird that on games like Elder Scrolls, where you have large weapons that could normally hit 2 to 3 people at a time, it only ever damages 1?
A little bit. It's especially egregious in, like, D&D, where you know exactly how big your weapon is, how many spaces it should cover, and you still have half a chance of missing the guy who's next to the guy you're swinging at.
Well, it's still a half a chance. On the video games, it's a complete miss. You can only hit the one directly in front of you, even though you just swung and took out his 4 buddies as well.
At least it hits the one you're actually aiming for.
Yeah.
Some games have it so it's the first one you hit's the only one you actually damage.
Wouldn't it be funny if you could like hit the first one and it knocks them into the second one?
That'd be great.
Games have a look engine, or how it looks, whatever you want to call it. Graphics engine, that's what it's called. And gameplay, and like all these other things. Why don't they have a humor engine?
What?
A humor engine. You know, the game has programming in it that is entirely based on making up jokes. You can find joke books, and depending on how you respond to people, they can be a smart ass to you. And
Well, some games have that. It's only their normal.
but those are like normal responses. What if you said something different? You know, what if you wanted to say something different?
Well, generally it's appropriate if you're smart. They'll sometimes be smart back to you. If you're dumb, they may be dumb back to you. But honestly, when you said humor engine, I'm like, but Mortal Kombat already spits enough blood across the screen. I really don't want to see any yellow bile.
Or brown.
I don't think brown was one of the colors.
Bruh. For what?
The 4 humors. It was blood, mucus, yellow bile, black bile.
Well, black, brown. I'd say those are pretty close. You know, generally whenever they're bile, you don't want to take a look at them long enough to tell their actual color anyway, right?
Apparently these guys did. And now you're about to see something semi-unfair. See, we mentioned earlier that part of this floor collapses. It's the one right in the beginning of over there, I believe.
It's basically the exact same spot the previous demon dropped down on top of.
Yeah, because he basically cracked the floor. Which means it's right above this particular door. Because that's the one that's locked. Now, I accidentally kite some of these guys in here, and I didn't notice when I was playing. But they actually step on the part that's supposed to collapse, and it doesn't.
Yeah, that guy that just dropped down on the right, he avoids the center of it, and then he just walks all over it. You can tell it's there because there's a gigantic pile of, bricks.
And the reason the weird cut there is I actually had to, when I realized that Snuggly wasn't giving up the purge stones, because saving's not just enough, the screen has to actually reload, and I didn't feel like sitting through 2 cutscenes to get them. I shut off my, after I saved, I shut off my game, reloaded, and so I could go pick up the purge stones, so I could show you guys. But yes, you get something out of it. And I didn't know it until after this, and I haven't really been back to the Undead Asylum. But apparently if you drop the sack that we're gonna get when we go to the depths, you can get, like, the hammer the demon uses here the first time.
Yep, the demon's great hammer. Strength requirement 38.
Yep. If you're a melee build, that's useful for you.
Not really.
Well, it's useful early on if you have this strength.
Not really. Don't let him kid you. Its damage is so low that there is about 37 weapons in the game better at, like, starting level. to where whenever you actually have the 38 strength to wield that hammer, you can probably already be dealing well more than the 350 damage the
Does it not have a
Great Hammer
Chaos
does.
enchantment on it or anything?
Nope, it's just a hammer, and you can only upgrade it to +5.
I could have sworn it had the Chaos enchantment on it to do more if you have more humanity.
You see, when he hit OK, he accidentally hit pick up as well. Anyways, that was Sword Mage Quickguide number 7. And this has been Integer.
And this has been Caydor. AdventuresinRandom.com.
Yeah, I thought it was your turn to say it first. All right. Any witty banter today?
I don't know, Facebook us?
All right, Facebook us.
And not like in that Ella Enchanted review we just did.
Where the elf actually Facebooked somebody?
And the guy's face was actually shoved in a book.
Yeah. Anyways, bye now.